Imagine walking into a village where the landscape itself seems to have become a temple, where enormous granite boulders have been transformed into gods, where pillars become dancers, musicians, warriors, and celestial beings, where the ceilings become giant canvases telling stories from the Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Puranas, and where one stone pillar appears to defy gravity. This is Lepakshi, a small historic town in present-day Andhra Pradesh, famous for one of the finest surviving monuments of Vijayanagara architecture, the magnificent Sri Veerabhadra Temple. But Lepakshi is much more than a temple. It is a story of an empire, extraordinary engineering, sculpture, painting, mythology, and devotion, all brought together in granite. Let's begin with the land on which Lepakshi stands. The temple does not simply sit on ordinary ground. It stands on a massive natural granite formation traditionally known as Kurmasila, the Tortoise Hill, because of its shape. The builders developed the temple directly on this rocky landscape, making the natural granite hill an essential part of the monument itself. So, when you arrive at Lepakshi, don't think of this simply as a temple that was constructed on a piece of land. Think of it as a temple that emerged from a landscape of stone. Now let's travel back nearly 5 centuries and understand when this temple was built. Lepakshi lies in present-day Andhra Pradesh, close to the Karnataka border, and is particularly accessible from Bengaluru. The temple we see today belongs primarily to the 16th century, during the height of the Vijayanagara Empire. The major development of the temple is associated with the reign of King Ashuttaraya, who ruled the Vijayanagara Empire from approximately 1529 to 1542 CE. This was the period that followed the celebrated reign of Krishnadevaraya, one of the greatest rulers of the Vijayanagara Empire. Vijayanagara was one of the most powerful kingdoms in South India, and under its rulers, monumental temple architecture flourished. Lepakshi represents this mature phase of Vijayanagara architecture. But who actually built and developed this magnificent temple? It would not be entirely accurate to simply say that King Ashuttaraya built Lepakshi. The construction and development of the temple are traditionally and historically associated with 2 brothers, Veerapana and Veerana, who were officers connected with the Vijayanagara administration. Veerapana in particular is strongly associated with the construction and patronage of the temple, and this is where history and legend begin to come together. Now comes one of the most dramatic stories associated with Lepakshi. According to popular tradition, Veerapana was responsible for overseeing the construction of the temple. A dramatic legend says that the temple was being constructed using royal funds while the king was away. When the king supposedly discovered the expenditure, he became furious and ordered Veerapana to be punished. Another version of the story says that Veerapana, devastated by the king's order, blinded himself. And according to the legend, the red marks that can be seen on a wall are associated with his eyes. They are popularly referred to as Veerapana's eyes, but this is important. The story should be understood as a local tradition rather than as proven historical fact. What history does establish is the strong association of Veerapana and Veerana with the temple's development during the Ashuttaraya period, and Lepakshi has preserved these stories for centuries, allowing history, faith, and local memory to exist side by side. Before we enter the temple, there is one monument you absolutely should not miss: the enormous Nandi outside the main temple complex. This is not just another statue placed outside a temple. This is one of the great masterpieces of Lepakshi. The Nandi is a colossal monolithic sculpture, carved from a single massive piece of granite. It is traditionally described as approximately 8 meters high and around 9 meters long, making it one of the largest monolithic Nandi sculptures in India. And when you stand beside it, photographs simply don't communicate its true scale. Look closely at the sculpture. Look at the enormous body, the curved horns, the ears, the eyes, the folds of the skin, the ornaments around the neck, the bells, the chains. Every detail has been carved from stone. The sculptor was working with one of the hardest and most unforgiving materials available, yet the finished Nandi has an extraordinary sense of softness and movement. It almost feels alive. But there is more to this Nandi than its enormous size. Nandi is the sacred bull and vehicle of Lord Shiva, and its position outside the temple creates a powerful visual relationship with the main shrine dedicated to Veerabhadra, the fierce form of Shiva. So if you visit Lepakshi, don't simply drive past the Nandi. Stop. Walk around it. Look at it from different angles. Stand underneath its enormous head and take a moment to appreciate the fact that this entire figure was carved from a single piece of granite. Now look at the rock beneath the temple. The temple stands upon a natural rocky hill traditionally known as Kurmasila. The name refers to its tortoise-like form. This natural rock is fundamental to understanding Lepakshi. The builders did not simply construct a temple on an artificially created platform. They worked with the existing granite landscape. The temple complex, its platforms, and its architectural structures were developed upon and around this rocky formation. This is why Lepakshi has such a distinctive character. The rock is not merely the material used to create the temple. The rock is also the foundation, the setting, and part of the identity of the temple itself. And now let's uncover the story behind the name Lepakshi. According to local tradition, when Ravana abducted Sita and carried her away to Lanka, the great bird king Jatayu tried to stop him. Jatayu fought Ravana with all his strength, but the battle ended tragically. Jatayu was severely wounded and fell upon these rocky hills. Later, while searching for Sita, Lord Rama is said to have found the dying bird. Jatayu had done everything he could to protect Sita. Seeing his faithful friend lying wounded on the ground, Rama is believed to have said, "Lepakshi," rise bird. And according to this tradition, those words gave the place its name. Le, rise, Pakshi, bird, Lepakshi. Whether we understand this as history or as a sacred local tradition, the story has become inseparable from the identity of Lepakshi, and there is something particularly fitting about it. The entire landscape is dominated by massive rocks and granite formations, and this is traditionally associated with the place where Jatayu fell. So behind the name, Lepakshi is not simply a word. It is a story of courage, sacrifice, and devotion. A story of a bird who fought for Sita, and a place forever remembered through Rama's words, rise bird, Lepakshi. Of course, this is a traditional explanation for the name, not a historically proven etymology, and that distinction is important when we tell the story of Lepakshi, because this temple exists at the intersection of history, archaeology, religion, and living tradition. Now let's enter the temple and explore its magnificent architecture. The first thing you begin to notice is that this is not a single shrine standing by itself. Lepakshi is a large architectural complex containing shrines, halls, corridors, gateways, and monumental sculptures. It is predominantly associated with the Vijayanagara architectural style, while also reflecting the continuation of earlier South Indian traditions. The complex contains shrines associated with several deities, including Veerabhadra, Papanasesvara, Raghunatha, Parvati, Ramalinga, and Hanumalinga. And the further you walk into the complex, the more the stone begins to tell stories. Let's begin with the mandapas, the great pillared halls of Lepakshi. One of the defining features of Vijayanagara architecture is the extensive use of mandapas. A mandapa is essentially a pillared hall, but calling these spaces simply halls does not do them justice. At Lepakshi, a mandapa is simultaneously an architectural space, a structural system, a sculptural gallery, and a stage for religious storytelling. The temple complex includes several important mandapas, including the Mukha Mandapa, Ardha Mandapa, Natya Mandapa, Kalyana Mandapa, and Latha Mandapa. Each has its own character, and each deserves to be explored slowly. First, let's look at the beautiful Latha Mandapa. Latha refers to creepers or vine-like forms. Look at the pillars. They are covered with intricate decorative patterns inspired by vegetation. The designs flow across the stone in a way that almost makes the granite appear like carved fabric. Different sides of the pillars contain different compositions. The sculptors were not satisfied with creating a functional support. They wanted every visible surface to participate in the artistic experience. And now, we arrive at one of Lepakshi's most unforgettable sculptures, the gigantic Nagalinga. Look at it carefully. At the center is a Shiva Linga. Around it rises a huge serpent. 7 hoods spread above the linga like a protective canopy. The serpent's body forms coils around the base, and this entire monumental composition has been carved from granite. The Nagalinga is one of the finest examples of the monumental stone sculpture for which Lepakshi is famous. There is also a fascinating local legend connected with the Nagalinga. According to one popular legend, a worker carving the sculpture created it while waiting for his meal. When his mother arrived and saw what he had made, she expressed admiration. According to the story, the stone base somehow cracked after she saw it. Whether we accept the story literally or simply as folklore, it tells us something about the way generations of people have remembered Lepakshi. The temple is filled with stories explaining why a particular sculpture looks the way it does. History gives us the builders, tradition gives us the stories, and Lepakshi preserves both. And don't look only at the Nagalinga. Look around you. Nearby stands another imposing granite sculpture of Ganesha. Again, the scale is striking. The artists of Lepakshi repeatedly took the natural stone around them and transformed it into monumental divine forms. It is almost as though the boulder itself is being persuaded to reveal the deity hidden within it.
Now, look closely at the pillars around the temple. Lepakshi isn't decorated with a few sculptures. The architecture itself becomes sculpture. Look at the pillars. You will find gods, goddesses, dancers, musicians, yelis, mythical lion-like creatures, animals, celestial beings, floral patterns, geometric ornament, and scenes from Hindu mythology. The pillars are not identical. Different types of pillars, brackets, and projecting sculptural elements create a visual rhythm throughout the halls. And remember something. Every one of these enormous stone pillars has a job. They support beams, they support roofs, they create large open spaces, and at the same time, they are covered with incredibly detailed sculpture. This is where Lepakshi becomes more than an art gallery. It becomes an engineering achievement. The architects were balancing weight, stone, geometry, structure, space, and aesthetics. And this is where we end part 1. We have seen the giant Nandi. We have explored the rocky hill of Kurmasaila. We have traveled back to the Vijayanagara period. We have heard the story behind the name Lepakshi. We have explored the mandapas. And we have stood before the magnificent Nagalinga. But the greatest surprises are still waiting inside. Because in part 2, we are going to explore the Natya Mandapa, the majestic sculpted pillars, the extraordinary Vijayanagara murals, the famous floating pillar, the unfinished Kalyana Mandapa, Sita's footprint, and the legends of Jatayu. And that is where the story of Lepakshi becomes even more fascinating.